Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. The Lord of Nothing DLC is finally here, and with it comes a massive patch that touches just about every aspect of the game. Visual issues, navigation problems, quests, endings, and just about anything else you could think of are addressed in this patch, and I want to touch on some of the major changes that I believe many of you will be interested in. I won't go through all the changes, so patch notes will be listed in the description below. For some reason, the patch notes don't include a list of the new spells, so I won't be going over those here either, although you can see a couple of examples in my last video detailing all the new archetypes. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more CRPG content. One of the biggest areas that has seen changes is the mythic abilities and feats. Some new ones have been added and some old ones have had their functionality changed, so let's walk through it. Archmage armor can no longer be triggered with items. Many players would grab this and then use potions to give themselves mage armor along with the bonus. Now that is broken and those builds will undoubtedly suffer. There's a couple of other similar debuffs that break the way people used to stack AC without armor. It seems like Owlcat wants to push more people into using the new mythic feat armor options that we'll get into later. Corruptor is a new mythic ability that causes your poisons and diseases to ignore immunities. There are several classes which use poison-related abilities that were considered useless before that might now be viable. Yes, I have heard the cries of you all asking me to take a second look at Assassin, and I absolutely plan to do so. Explosives Expert causes your alchemical bombs to deal 1 additional damage die, and you have a 50% chance of not expending one of your limited uses of the ability per day. Obviously, if you are running an alchemist, this one is a must-have and makes me even more excited to play Reanimator. Favorite meta magic now includes Persistent as one of the options you can select. Persistent forces an enemy to roll again if it succeeds on a saving throw against your spell. It increases your spell level by +2, so previously it was hard to use, but now it could be much more viable. Mythic Inspiration increases all bonuses from your inspiring abilities by an amount equal to 1+1 for every 3 mythic ranks above the first. This applies to abilities from the Bard and Skald classes. Some of them were already powerful, so this is definitely a nice boon for players. Perfect Cavalry ensures neither you nor your mount experience attacks of opportunity while moving. That's kind of wild and should make it much easier to just sprint into the enemy's back line and annihilate soft targets. Really nice. Spellcaster's Onslaught is triggered when you cast a spell and causes your next attack with a weapon and the damage roll if the attack succeeds to get an increase equal to half your mythic rank. This sounds like something Magus would greatly benefit from. Finally, School Tolerance removes the penalties you would usually receive from opposition schools of magic. This applies to wizards who must choose an opposition magic school along with the school that they focus on. I kinda don't feel like this is worth a mythic ability, but it might work for some people's builds. Alright, now let's switch over to Mythic Feats where things are even more interesting. Owlcat has added a line of Mythic Feats centered around making armor more viable. For those who are not aware, putting on the heaviest armor you can find, strapping on a shield, and pumping up Constitution has not been the best way to make your character more tanky. Instead, it's been wearing no armor and using high dexterity, Archmage armor, and other factors to pump up your AC. This patch might completely change that. Each armor type gets 3 mythic options that you can choose, and you must have the armor focus feat in order to select any of them. Light Armor Assault is triggered when you are wielding a finesse weapon and provides a bonus to attack rolls equal to half the armor's AC. By endgame, the bonus will probably be around 4, so not earth-shattering, and personally I wouldn't select this. Light Armor Avoidance adds your mythic rank to the maximum dexterity bonus allowed by your armor, which I don't find impressive since most light armor has a large number for that anyway. It also adds up to a 20% miss chance for all attacks against you, and appears this should stack with concealment from blur. This is more impressive, but it does take a while for the percentage to be substantial, so this is probably a mid or late game pickup. Finally, Light Armor Endurance gives you spell resistance equal to your armor's AC. Nah, there are a bunch of ways you should be protecting yourself from spells. This isn't worth a mythic ability in my opinion. Medium armor assault deals piercing damage whenever enemies attack you in melee equal to 1d6 plus your armor's AC. If your character is capable of attacking 2 or 3 times in a turn, this should be a massive increase in damage. Medium armor avoidance adds your constitution modifier to your maximum dexterity bonus. Now this is interesting because it potentially allows characters focused on dexterity to wear heavier armor. If you dump strength and put a bunch of points into dexterity and constitution, this is definitely something to consider. Medium armor endurance adds half of your armor's AC to your AC as an equipped armor bonus, so it stacks with what you already have. In addition, medium armor no longer limits your speed. By endgame, this should shake out to around +5 or 6, and the increased speed is nice as well, so this is something to consider. Heavy armor assault allows you to deal additional slashing damage with each attack equal to 1d6 plus your armor's AC. Once again, this could turn into a massive amount of extra damage and is absolutely an option you should consider. Heavy armor avoidance adds your strength bonus to AC instead of dexterity, and this bonus is not limited by your maximum dexterity bonus. Holy shit. This is insane, and absolutely this is a must-have feat. For the first time, completely dumping dexterity is actually viable. Well, technically at least, since those first 8 or so levels to get your second mythic rank would be brutal, but still, this is incredible. Finally, heavy armor endurance gives you damage resistance equal to half your armor's AC, and this stacks with other forms of damage resistance. Usually DR doesn't really matter for you, but with this, depending on your class, you could stack it to really high amounts that would make it have an impact on your playthrough. In addition to the feats added for armor, there are also 4 options for shields. Mythic Buckler gives your allies within 15 feet a shield bonus to AC equal to your shield's AC. AC is kind of all or nothing, where either you get it sky high or you just leave it alone. This feat is great if you have multiple melee party members on your team who are also focusing on AC and can benefit from the buff. If most of your party members have low AC, then this isn't going to do anything for them. Heavy Shield is triggered when an enemy hits you in melee without a reach weapon and causes you to deal bludgeoning damage equal to your shield's AC plus your strength bonus. By the time you reach mid-game, many enemies will hit you multiple times during their turn, and this should trigger every time, so it's a really nice damage buff, and absolutely you should pick it up if you are using Heavy Shields. Light Shield gives a deflection bonus to your reflex saving throws equal to your shield's AC. No thank you. Reflex saving throws are nice, but this is not worth a mythic feat. Finally, Tower Shield will give you DR equal to your shield's AC, which should be an absolutely massive amount, so again, if you have a class that can stack this, it might make sense as a pickup. Overall, I think the collection of armor and shield mythic options Owlcat has provided is really impressive and provides players with some new ways to enjoy the game. Moving on, Expanded Arsenal now correctly counts bonuses. Before, it would stack bonuses that you have from other schools of magic, which never made any sense. Now it should work properly, which is definitely another debuff for some builds. There are some mythic changes that aren't related to abilities or feats. This isn't directly related to Mythic Paths, but so many people use Azada for this reason, I felt we might as well talk about it in this section. Chain lightning damage is now capped at 20d6. This is a death knell for a lot of Azada builds, which depended upon double casting chain lightning for insane damage amounts. You could absolutely shred enemy groups with it, but now this is completely changed. Azada's supersonic speed no longer stacks with haste, which is super goofy because what's the point of taking it now? The possibility of you running with an entire party that doesn't have access to haste is extremely low, so this serves no point. That's 2 massive debuffs for a mythic path that was never considered to be overpowered in the first place, so the changes are kind of odd to me. In more positive news, Incredible Might from Azada now applies to all attack and damage rolls. This means your spells that attack can now benefit from this buff, which is pretty massive by late game. Avu's Heroic Aura, which gives the entire team a permanent heroism effect, works properly now. This wasn't working during my Azada run, so it's nice to see it fixed now. Trickster's third rank of Persuasion, which causes enemies to coup de grace themselves, worked instantly at the start of combat in turn-based mode instead of taking the entire first round. This has been fixed. I know a lot of players like using the persuasion mythic tricks, so this might shake up some of your builds. Originally, choosing the barbarian upgrade for your lich skeletal champion didn't provide the rage powers that were listed. This has been fixed. I strongly felt during my lich run that marksman was better than all of the other skeletal champion options, but never considered that they were flat out broken. Hopefully the barbarian version feels more powerful now. The Sunform spell from the Angel Mythic Path now correctly adds your mythic level to the caster level when deciding how much damage the raise can do. This is a pretty significant damage buff late game and makes the Angel even more powerful. The Angel's Sword of Heaven ability Speed of Light no longer stacks with haste. This kind of defeats its purpose from a martial perspective, although quickening spells of level 7 or lower is still very nice. Spell specialization now includes mythic spells. This is fantastic because mythic spell damage is uncapped and dependent upon caster level, so using this feat on them will be a significant damage boost. Alright, now let's move into Crusade Management. When managing Crusade units, dragging them from one army to another is now more convenient. I don't know what this means. I tried moving units in game and it feels the same, but anything that makes Crusade Management easier is certainly welcomed by the community, I am sure. New buildings, Saboteur's headquarters and Scout's headquarters are now available for building after conquering any region. I checked the late game save and didn't see either of these options available to build in Dresden or my other regions. Not sure where you are supposed to be able to build these or what they do. Enemy archers now correctly switch to melee weapons in melee, which, depending on your playstyle, will make them more difficult to eliminate. The General's Master of Maneuver feat did not increase the allowable army size, and that has been fixed. I always picked these feats and never felt like they weren't working, but maybe that changed with one of the recent patches. Finally, the descriptions of unit abilities have been updated with more details. This change I definitely do see when I go into the description for units. I feel like it's clearer what they are actually capable of. Alright, now let's jump into class mechanics. The requirements for taking certain bloodlines have been reworked. For example, you can no longer take two different draconic bloodlines. This is a massive debuff, as a lot of players used to do this for blasters. I guess it makes sense that you cannot have two different dragons in your blood, but this still kind of sucks. Crane Wing no longer works if you are using a two-handed weapon or if you have a weapon or shield in the second hand. Yikes! I cannot tell you how many people left comments on my builds claiming I needed to dip into Monk and take this feat, along with a couple of other options to stack more AC. Now this is significantly less viable. Chronomancer's Commanding Infusion ability now provides a +4 bonus to Charisma instead of Constitution, which makes 10 times more sense. Glad Owlcap made this adjustment. Archon's Aura can now use the persistent meta magic feat. This is actually pretty significant because Archon's Aura is a fantastic debuff, and putting extra effort into making sure enemies cannot resist it makes a lot of sense. Crusader's Edge and Blessed Weapon now work when enduring spells, which means you can keep them on for 24 hours. I don't use Blessed Weapon often, but Crusader's Edge is fantastic, so this is definitely a welcome change. Phantasmal Web can now be effectively used on enemies who are immune to poison. Previously, its nauseated effect wouldn't work on these creatures, but that has now been fixed, so illusionists rejoice. Mighty Charge finally doubles the threat range of any weapon used during a charge, whereas previously I think it was limited to long spears or weapons of that sort. Finally, there are a couple of general notes I thought were interesting. In turn-based mode, characters who had not taken any turns yet in combat were sometimes not caught flat-footed, and this has been fixed. Flat-footed enemies lose their dexterity bonus to AC, so this should potentially make the game easier for players. Finally, books that provide skills or bonuses will now be highlighted as an important item. This is fantastic because so many people never realized that reading the books could help your character. Now you can easily see when you have one of these types of books in your inventory. That's all the information I have regarding patch 2.2. Again, it's absolutely massive, so be sure to check out the patch notes in the description. Let me know down in the comments if you have any feedback, and I hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care!